That's a funny point that you bring up. I think a lot of people make that same mistake. I think the system's designed that way. Like you don't see the pain because they just take it before you even see it. So you look at your Form 1040 that you file, and then there's a line there, but it says what your actual taxes due. That's actually the money that you owe. And then they're taking it every 2 weeks from you. So there's a taxes paid number. And if you owe money, you have to write it on a check. And if you paid too much, then you get a refund back. But you've already paid that money. It's a big like light bulb moment for a lot of people. I think for us, it was like a big thing. Like you convinced me to buy real estate, which is correct. It's been super powerful. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of STR with the Best. I'm your host, Michael Chang. I have my co-host here, Elizabeth. Hey,
Hi.
hey, honey, how
Hi,
are you?
everyone. Good. How are you? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. You're the only person I call honey on the podcast.
Okay, I'm not sure what to respond.
All good, all good. So, folks, if just your first time listening, Liz and I created this podcast to talk about our personal journey in short-term rentals. We've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And the show really is designed to help you better invest your time and money as you're looking at short-term rentals. So if you are interested in this as an investment strategy for yourselves, then you're found the right place. And with the new tax rule changes that happened in July 2025, just makes buying short-term rentals that much more attractive with the STR tax loophole, which allows you to offset your taxes from W-2 job, 1099, self-employment income, any type of income, really, capital gains, reduce your taxes by buying a short-term rental. And Liz and I are super passionate talking about that. So Liz, do you like paying taxes?
Well, I would say I didn't know what I didn't know back then, 10 years ago. I thought it would just what you have to do and it's taken out from my paycheck. I actually didn't know how much I was paying till I met you probably and you told me this is how you look at your taxes. Like, oh, okay. And that was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, okay, well, I never really understood what it mean. How do you look at your tax return? How it's broken out because it's just taking out from my paycheck back then for W-2 and you just pay the remaining. Sometimes you get some back. And when you get money back, it's like, oh, I actually get some money back without thinking about it.
Yeah,
So now understanding all the nuances, yes, of course, I want to pay our due, but also want to minimize what I can and then invest those for our family wealth.
it's just a funny point that you bring up. I think a lot of people have make that same mistake, right? Like I think the system's designed that way. Like you don't see
Yeah.
the pain because it's like they just take it before you even see it. So it's like, okay. But you look at your Form 1040 that you file, and then there's a line there, but it says there like what your actual taxes due. Like that's actually the money that you owe. And then they're taking it every 2 weeks from you. So there's a taxes paid number. And if you owe money, you have to write it on a check. And if you pay too much, then you get a refund back. But you've already paid that money. It's a big like light bulb moment for a lot of people. And I think for us, it was like a big thing, right? Like you convinced me to buy real estate, which is correct. It's been super powerful.
Yes. Very powerful. We can
The
talk about our journey.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. Like, so we get a lot of questions. So I want to make this episode about. We get a lot of questions about like how do we know what short-term rental markets work? Like we get asked this question all the time, especially due to STR, like the best program, like where we help
Hmm.
high-income professionals execute this STR tax loophole strategy. How do you know what's working? Like, what's working? My response always is like, it depends on your situation. Like, what works for me might be different from you, which is why we have this entire process. We go in, we ask you to fill out a questionnaire, and then I spend an hour with you going through exactly your situation, and we talk about which markets would be the best fit. So I think that's process has worked really well. But like, how do we even get that information? Maybe talk about that. Like, how do we actually even have that knowledge in our head to be able to share with others?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the big step, right? Like the intake onboarding you do with client to understand their financial situation. However, it's not like every single market just works. It's usually not where you live. Majority of the client would recommend the market, it's they need to take a flight or maybe drive a couple hours. But how do we know those market work? I think a couple things. One, I would say from our 10 years of experience just investing, running this business, and we have seen the cycle through different time during the boom when we first started and COVID when everything was dead and a pickup boom again after COVID. And now it's kind of like correcting, and then still, but I do still think there's plenty of opportunity. But I think through the 10-year cycle, we have met a lot of great connection, and we always stay warm with this connection. We go to conferences, we go to different meetings, networking event, just constantly learning what's working right now in the market and share best practices and insights together. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the really powerful things to do is just keep networking. You never say no. Those conferences are gold in my opinion. You
Yeah,
can
no,
really get some great informations.
and I'm leaving this Thursday for a conference in Raleigh, so I'll be there to do an AI talk. But on that point, it's we do this for a long time. So the people that are like big now, they weren't big before. Avery Carl, for example, like Avery was actually our agent, or like you talked to her in like 2018, and she was actually the one doing the work. And I mean, this is like 6, 7, what is it, 8, 9 years ago now.
Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah.
Like we would call Avery directly.
I do think a lot of time just like once you find something work you like doing, you have to just keep it going. I think we talk about this. How long can you stay in it? We never gave up. During the hard time, good time, we just keep pushing forward. And that's how you really build that muscle and connectivity and really get the inside information.
Yeah,
And I'm constantly on the phone with different brokers every single day. I
yeah.
would say
Well,
I'm on the call too.
I think that first one I want to highlight was like, we've been in this for like 10 years now.
Hmm.
And the people, like we started with people when they had much smaller businesses and profiles. And the people that have survived along with us have gotten, built bigger businesses and now have bigger teams and bigger everything. It's always like the people that you start with, you have their phone numbers and you kind of have a different level of sharing. And I think it's been really powerful for us as we just kind of navigated through 2, 3 different cycles in the space. But I think how do you think about it? You're on the phone a lot with the agents. Maybe talk a little bit about that. About it's not just that we have the connections, but we actually have real conversations with them, like direct conversations to understand what's working and what's not. So we want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, and I think for me, I enjoy doing that because for me, it's like I'm doing this not only for our own, I like it, that's first thing. And second is like I want them to be successful. When I pair them with the right client, I want them to be successful. This work is really important upfront for me to understand the nuances of each market, the regulation nuances, or how any other potential opportunity I'm not seeing, not understanding what's the best budget before I match clients. So when we send the right client over, it's actually they are ready to go. They can have the most productive conversation, and I can really be part of that success. And we
Yeah.
shorten that timeline and match them with better opportunity, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, like it's that efficiency part, right? We don't
The
want to.
efficiency, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to introduce people to each other that aren't good fits, right? If you have a $500,000 budget, there's certain markets that you're just not going to be
Mhm.
competitive in at all. If have a bigger budget, you want to invest like $2 million, for example, and you have certain criteria, then the other markets are going to be much more suitable for you, right? So I think that matching part, which you and I spend a ton of time on, like you do a lot of the background work, and then we have it into our process, and then me doing discovery and talking with the clients and figuring out like what exactly. But maybe just on that too, like maybe just talk. I mean, I think we should dig in a little bit deeper here. Like, what do you ask them? Like, how do you understand what's working and what's not working? Like, maybe just talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so I actually just got off the phone right before this podcast. I really, for me, any new market I'm learning, I know there's a short-term rental presence, but there's a lot beneath that, right? So first thing I want to understand is like regulation landscape. Just give me a lay of the land. What's the regulation like? Is soft regulation, hard regulation, strictly enforced, not strictly enforced? So we can be informed on that front. Because if it's a really difficult market, likely the client would have a really hard time to be out of their comfort zone in a place they've never visited. So you need to find that right balance of a market that's open enough, but also not it has the right amount of regulation so I can pair with the right client over there, right? So that's the first thing. And the second is what's the right price range for that market? Every market is really different. What works, price range work for that market can be completely different from the other market, right? From the if you want something by the beach, then your budget needs to be certain level. Maybe it's 1.5 or above. you need that kind of budget for the beach. But if you're willing to go a little inland, then that maybe 750 to 1.2. So I need to understand all those nuances before I pair anyone over.
And then also, I think also the data side, right? Like we use AirDNA and it's our preferred data source, but it doesn't tell you everything. You have to be able to,
It doesn't
you
tell
need
you
to know how to
everything.
interpret the numbers, right? So when you talk about that, so I feel like that's like a really big part. You spend a ton of time on that.
AirDNA is a great place to kind of find comp set, but it's not always accurate. It's a data software, right? It scrapes data. So a lot of time we need to pair that with what's actually going on in the market. So we also work very closely with the agents on the ground. Do you know any property manager I can make connection with so I can talk to them to see, hey, or any revenue manager even. It's like this type of property within your portfolio, what are you seeing in terms of performance? And I pair that information with what's on AirDNA and also see the occupancy rate on the AirDNA. See, is there any more opportunity for me to squeeze out as a professional operator and really just pulling information from different places and put them together, digest them together in the very easy to understand format for our clients. It's not only one source. A lot of people think, oh, AirDNA is the only place we get data. How hard is that? There are multiple other layers that it goes beyond that when we do our due diligence process.
It's a great starting point, but it's not always right. It takes a lot of judgment to like
Yeah, a
what
lot of
data actually,
judgment.
like what comps actually work. Like, is the data actually good? And a lot of it's just based. And I want to touch on the experience part. A lot of it's experience too. Like, if you see something that just doesn't make sense, you're like, that just doesn't look right. Or sometimes conversely, where it's like, oh wow, this is really good. So because you look at so many of them, when something it really stands out, you're like, oh wow, this is really good comp, and this actually really supports this. And maybe it's a market inefficiency that people aren't seeing. We're able to leverage that on behalf of our clients. So the fact that we just you and the team just like are constantly like me, like we're all just constantly looking at it. We can see the outliers, right? Like, oh, okay, like this is good, so you should take this. I think also on the student side, right, where we have without disclosing the number of clients, we have we've gotten a fair amount of clients that have engaged with us and we help them buy properties. How does that constant or consistent review for you, for the team, the data that we get, how does that help our process? How does it sharpen our sword?
I think it's repetition. I think that applies to the same way out from our investing journey. You just get better. The more you look at it, you practice that muscle. The more properly you look at it, you analyze, you start to know where the levers, where the costs you can control that you should be looking at from the operation expense that can really give you the best leverage, right? So we teach that a lot in our mentorship on the weekly calls. And also on the revenue side, where are the biggest lever you can do in terms of your design and also based on the comp set we're seeing. So you can start finding pattern within each market. And I
Mm-hmm.
would say the hot tub investment in one market doesn't equal to hot tub investment in the other. They might result in may not be the best ROI for you, right? Then we would recommend instead of hot tub, you should do this instead for this market, given what we are seeing. So I think that all comes from just looking at a lot of data set. All we do every day is dedicated looking
All
at
right,
those
all right,
things.
all right, Liz. How many properties do you think you've looked at in February, or just this year? Just like we're recording this March
This
2nd,
year,
just this
I
year from
I can't
January to
even
February. Just
tell you.
like
I
okay,
don't even know.
like 100.
Probably more than that. I literally look at
Okay,
properties all day long, every day.
200.
200, I would say close.
200 property. So I think you're always very humble in the way you view yourself. I don't know, maybe it's like the Taiwanese part or the woman part. I don't know. But I would say to you, like you are probably the one of the top 5, 10, like I would say five short-term rental experts in the US. Like there is no one, there are very, very few people out there that look at as much as you properties, has access to the data and to the network. Like I don't think there's anyone else, like myself included. I don't think there's anyone else out there that is as deep into all the major markets as you.
The thing is, like, I didn't realize that until you told me that because I feel like I'm just doing what I like and I know this will move the needle. These are the things I like to look at and I just keep doing it repeatedly every day. I just get better and better. You look, the more property you look at, the more data you have the better decision you can make. So you just keep compounding on what's working.
Well, so I think you should recognize that because it's true. So I think you should give yourself more credit. But I think also too is like we're going to go in contract for a multi-million dollar property this week, as you know. After this podcast, there's some contract stuff that you and I need to do. I'm gonna go. I'll be out there Friday looking at it. But also, I think it's very rare that someone like you is actually buying for yourself and on behalf of clients. I think a lot of people out there, they're looking, but they're looking from a data analyst perspective, or they're looking at a fund, or they are, it's part of a job. I would argue very, very few people, if any, are out there that are looking at it through like my own personal capital. Like, this is my money. This is like our money that we're investing. And like, I think it's so different when you look at something when it's your own money versus you're investing in someone else's money.
And I think I do have that when I look at every single deals too, analysis for our clients. Of course, it needs to match what their goal is and then what their capability at the time. But also from investor angle, I would look at it as like, does it make sense for a first time investor? I will look at from my angle too. And I pair all of those together and make the best recommendation, what we believe is right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it is a different approach, and I do think it's powerful from as investor angle.
That's important nuance too. As a first time investor, you have to look at it and like I would say, like 90% of our clients are first time investors, first time short term rental investors. One, we have a lot of doctors, dentists, and finance folks. They might have one or two long term, they might own their own home. Most people own their own home. Mm-hmm. They have maybe 1-2 short term, long term rentals, but it's the first time getting short term rentals.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's actually a very important distinction, right? Like, we're helping our clients analyze these properties. We look at it from a very much a risk adjusted perspective. What I mean by that, what I mean by that is like if it's your first time, you got a job, you got kids, like, we're not trying to shoot the moon here, right? We're not trying to like take the biggest swing here, the biggest upside and also the biggest downside. We're like, what is something that's like more likely to work, right? Given your constraints. People don't have 100 hours, 200 hours, they don't have all this time and money to go and like figure stuff out. Like, this has to kind of work, not out of the box, but this has to like a pretty defined path to working.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes they may talk to the other investor or other agent they spoke to before and say, oh, all you have to do is to add a bedroom here, add a bathroom there, renovate a kitchen. Is all easy work. But is it really easy work if you have never done it? We have done it, and I don't think it's easy, even after all this time. And especially with young family, young kids, it adds more constraint again to your time and capability of being flexible. So all that need to be considered. Sometimes I do believe sometimes it's being underestimated, especially for first time investor, and they got into something they didn't think they were ready for.
I've talked to a few folks that have had that before, where they maybe had a different experience. They, another advisor to help them, where two things that kind of come out. Like, one is the project is too big and they can't do it themselves, and they, have to go and hire a designer and do it. And then they struggle with getting there, or it's like too far. It's the project's too big. They end up have to hire like a designer and then struggle to meet their material participation hours. And two is like, they don't actually spend the time on, you can create the property, but then how do you operationalize it, right? And I think that's where, for us specifically, our entire Airbnb management team is in the Slack with you guys, with our clients. Like, every single thing that you don't know about how to operate short-term rental, like, we've probably seen it like multiple times. So, and I've seen that where it's like bite off too much, or like you don't know what you're getting into. So I think we really try to construct it in a way where it fits that client's goals and their capabilities and constraints. And then moreover, the work really starts once you go live, you get that first reservation. I think people kind of forget that. They're just like, oh, okay, I got a great property, like, I'm done. Like, that's just the start. You want to start the right way. You want to have the wind at your back, but you're pretty early in the race there.
That's when the hospitality piece comes in. You're running a hospitality business now. Then it comes down to your marketing. Really important. It's all about marketing, how you show up online, your distribution online, how you manage your operation. Huge. All this needs to be just right. The balance of those all And on top of that, you got to do the perfect revenue management, right? So you're not sitting at 45% occupancy. How do we really have a strategy to push to that 75 occupancy or beyond?
Yeah.
So all those need to, the puzzle need to all fit
Yeah.
together.
I know,
Yeah.
and yeah, right. And that's two people that have like played this game for 10 years now. Like we have all the people and the skills that like that you'll need to in order to have a successful short-term rental. But that you can all learn, to be fair. And it's like not you can learn it. Like we have everything there, like and everyone learns it. It takes time. You gotta
Hmm.
put the effort into it, but it's not I wouldn't say it's rocket science or anything like that. But I think what is rocket science is what you do. Like what is the hard part that like you can't just teach, right? And I think it's the that market knowledge and selection, that property selection. Like that's the hardest part actually. 'Cause if you get that wrong, you can do everything perfectly afterwards. You're still probably going to struggle a little bit.
So yeah, I agree. The initial screening, getting to the right market, extremely important. And then most of the client we have is they live in high income tax estate or market, coastal, a lot of coastal, and it's not necessarily the best short-term rental investing market. So they need to go somewhere else.
California's pretty tough.
It's
We have
really
we
hard.
have a lot. So we have a lot of California clients, a lot of Northern California, Bay Area, East Bay, South Bay. We have a lot of LA clients, LA, Orange County, Riverside. California is, I mean, you're probably making pretty good money if you're living in California, but also like it's hard to invest in California. Like we're outside California. That's where you and I spend a ton of time is like figuring out like, okay, based on like this price range, what works? Based on this time, this works. Like, I don't know, it's taken years.
Yeah, it really is ears. And I think the call you the level of detail is going beyond that, right? It's looking at their financial as well, their financial goals, and in the next 1 or 2 years, any changes, major changes in their life, all those are taken into consideration. So it's I feel like it's really important on that first onboarding you do with them because it sets the tone for everything else come after in our I guess in the search process.
Yeah.
It really work hand in hand. That's why we
What's
make a good team, I guess.
no, it's nice to meet our clients. So like, to actually
Yeah.
spend real time with them and it's cool. Like, really being able to develop a community, get to know each other. So it's nice that people have like now recommending their friends and family, their coworkers. Like Ben recommended his like coworker. Ben's one of our clients, a doctor, and recommended one of his doctor friends to join. So it's cool to and I think and kudos like really kudos to you for your love of real estate. I think that passion for it allows you to be on the phone for someone like me hours and hours a day. We're always on the phone.
Yes.
We leverage that knowledge for ourselves, and we think that like that's the hardest thing to recreate is just like that time and depth in this business, right? The access to the people that you have, the quality of the conversation, the fact that they just know you for so long, like and you kind of grow up in the business together. It's just a different kind of
Yeah.
relationship that like you can't easily recreate. Well, look, I mean, I want to cover a separate topic. Let's do it on a different pod. Let's do it on the next podcast together. But I think for us, it's been a pretty busy like last couple of days. Our daughter had she's young, but she had to get her tonsils and adenoids surgery done this past week, and it's been a lot for us to like work from home, and I think being staying home parents, both of us really like we're both almost always at home. If you're a staying at home parent, why short-term rentals makes a ton of sense, not just from a financial perspective, but also just from a personal perspective. So why don't we hit that on next episode? Any last words, Liz?
No, I do think that we are very passionate about that topic, and I do think some people have different definition of stay-at-home parents, and we have our definition of what that means to us. So I think that will be a really fun episode to kind of decode how we view that. I feel like that is kind of a label. Everyone has a certain projection of that label, but how do we think about that? How do we define stay-at-home parents
Ooh, I
that's
like that. Ooh,
working
I
from
like
home? I think it's really will be a really fun topic to talk about, and we are both very passionate about.
Spicy. Okay. All right. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, we'll do it for next one. And folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Really wanted to highlight the depth and experience it takes to really understand, right? The more time some advice, the more time that you spend on one market, the more depth that you get, the more conversations you have with not just your real estate agent, but like people, everyone in that market. Go on the Facebook groups, like talk to all the people that are already operating so you can build those relationships. Like learn how to actually like look at the AirDNA data and actually not just like see what it is, but go actually read the blog behind it. They have like a whole section on the data analysis, actually how they come up with it, so that you can really understand what these numbers actually represent. And then if you can do that, like have those like deep into market knowledge conversations with brokers, listing operators, really understand the data from the AirDNA side, how they actually come up with it, put that together, and then like, put together a quick model and see like what that can represent. Like that's what we really do for our clients. And if you can do that, you can really help de-risk this investment. So, don't just like rely on AirDNA or rely on just one, you're a real estate agent. Like you have to look at this holistically. And if you do that, your odds of success are going to be that much higher. So if there's something that you take away from this episode, I hope I hope that came through. So we'll do the next episode shortly. And if you're listening live on YouTube or LinkedIn, we'll see you in a few minutes.